In this episode of the Digital Trailblazer podcast, we're speaking with Anthony Karls, who's going to tell us about his journey building a seven-figure marketing agency from the ground up. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest.
Anthony, welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you here. Why don't you just give a quick introduction about you and what you do and how you help people?
Sure. So I'd say I would probably describe myself as a serial entrepreneur. So I've been doing small businesses for a long time. Started my first business in college doing painting. And then later on in my career, built a $17 million a year family law firm. It's currently still on the board, was able to hire a president. And now I'm on third business, building an agency to do exactly what we did for our law firm for other law firms in the same space.
Nice. I think what you did there kind of explains or describes a path that a lot of people did, is that they went on this journey solving a problem for themselves. And then now they're starting a business, helping other people to do the same. So what you did at first, you had that business experience building the law firm. Was building the marketing agency, did you find that to be very similar and fairly easy, or was it a very different experience from building the law firm?
There were some similarities, but there was some pretty substantial differences. So B2C businesses operate very differently, B2B, at least the consumer buying behavior. So like your purchase life cycle of a B2B business for an agency, for instance, is much longer. Like your follow-up engagement after the first conversation is much longer than the follow-up and conversation for someone that's going through a divorce, for instance. So there was some different things that we had to learn how to do. We had pretty good ability to drive a lot of paid traffic and organic traffic. There's a fairly large marketplace for lawyers. And when you're marketing for them, your TAM is a lot bigger. When you have a much smaller TAM and a smaller ICP, like it's harder to necessarily leverage the same tactics to grow the business. So we've had to really do things a little differently from a growth engine perspective.
So with your law firm, when you're getting clients, what are some of the strategies that you were using to get clients for that?
Sure. The most recent data we have there is about 83% of people, it might be a little higher, use online resources to determine who they're going to work with. So of that, a good chunk of them are coming through local SEO. Then you have traditional organic, paid search, paid social. LLMs are starting to also be a factor. So that's very different than what we have on the B2B side. So we don't even run paid search. Organic works okay, but not that well. There is no map pack play for the agency. Some of our main things that we did over there did not directly translate over. Instead, we had to get creative with how do we create lead magnets. We've written a book, and we're doing podcasts now on our own, kind of giving away the strategies that we execute for our clients, and then telling growth stories about law firms that have grown past the solo entrepreneur phase into kind of a more substantial business. So there's the methodology of kind of getting clients is very different.
How does content creation play into that? With the law firm, do you create content to get clients there? And then with your marketing agency, do you create content there to build brand awareness and get clients?
Yeah, we do it on both sides. I would say the order, if you're everybody's got limited resources, so when should I start doing this? There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in maps, paid search, organic search for lawyers that are looking to acquire clients in a B2C market. In a B2B market, we started that right away because we know the buying cycle is much longer. We need to build trust. We need to build the relationship over time, give away a lot of free things to kind of engage that audience so that we can actually have an opportunity to win their business over the long haul. So content's a big, important part of that.
And what about the paid aspect of it? Because I know that you kind of mentioned that you were doing some probably Google pay-per-click for the B2C. Are you doing the same thing with your B2B, or are you doing paid ads in a different way, like maybe with Facebook or YouTube or something?
Yeah, so we do more paid social for our agency business, where we've created several different lead magnets. So, for instance, we have a waterfall methodology on how to run a family law firm. It kind of tells you here's the metrics you should track, here's the benchmarks, here's what it should look like, enter your data, and you'll kind of understand how efficient or inefficient you are. So it's like it's a resource we give away for free. That's a pretty good lead magnet for us on paid socials that we give away as we're targeting folks. So we don't do a lot of paid search in the B2B space. There's a lot of tire kickers. So it ends up being extraordinarily expensive and not fruitful at this point in our journey.
With the B2B, getting clients for your marketing agency, what does that journey look like? So you have the free resource at the beginning. What are the ways that you're getting people in? And then what are you doing kind of in the middle to move them towards booking that call and generating the sale?
We start our funnel with content. So every week we produce 2 large pieces of content. One is an educational series on a particular topic, whether it's paid search or SEO or paid social or leadership, and how it directly applies to a family law firm. So we go into very specifics. It's pretty dense, but it's not like something you would go to if you wanted to be entertained, but you'll learn something. We also produce a growth story. So that is a opportunity for us to talk with somebody that's built a law firm in their unique way so that they can share that with the marketplace. As we attract people into that funnel, we are remarketing to them through our paid social channels, giving them lead magnets and so on and so forth. They get on a newsletter and they typically are there for quite a bit of time. And we're just creating a relationship, leveraging the content that we're building each week to continue to promote what we're doing and educate them along the way. And as their contracts expire with their current providers, that's when we have an opportunity to kind of come in and become their agency of record.
So it's just a matter of continually giving the call to action in whatever content that you're sending them to the email list and the newsletter?
Yeah. So a lot of it's not call to action. It's just like the call to action is, if you're doing this, are you considering these things? Here's how you could measure it. A lot of family law firm owners, they're not great at marketing because they're lawyers. They're good lawyers. They're not good marketers. So here's how you can hold your team accountable, your agency accountable, so on and so forth. It's an educational series. We're not asking for anything. It allows us to build a lot of trust.
Okay. Do you ever do live webinars or VSL or anything like that to drive sales? Or
We use some video sales letters. Currently, we haven't started doing webinars on the agency side. We actually we have 5 recorded webinars and a live workshop every day on the law firm side. So that's something that we will be building into our strategy because we know it works there too.
with the content that you create, are there certain platforms that you focus on that you feel are giving you the biggest return, or what's your strategy there as far as the content?
Yeah. So we focus a lot of our content distribution efforts on LinkedIn. For the agency, it's for LinkedIn and YouTube. On the B2C side, we use more Facebook and YouTube for B2B. YouTube's pretty good for both. It just depends on how you're positioning your content.
Okay. So that's interesting. So for your B2B, you're finding a lot of your clients on LinkedIn. And then for the B2C side, is it Google too, or is it just Facebook?
On socials, I would say it's Facebook. If we're going search, then it would be obviously Google.
We've had a lot of people come on this podcast, and when they talk about content creation, a lot of times they'll say something like, oh, just start where you're comfortable with. Just go ahead and just do that. And I get it. I understand for a lot of people who are just beginning and maybe you haven't done video before or you haven't created content before, the most important thing is to take action. But I like what you're doing because it seems like you're just going where the customer is. You're meeting them where they're at, rather than potentially doing something where you're just spinning your wheels and you're creating content and your audience isn't even there.
Yeah, I mean, the way we think about it is, what's a problem that our primary avatar has? What's a pillar piece of content that we can create? And then how do we distribute it to different channels where our audience is going to be? So, and like, let's create for LinkedIn, we got to create the post this way. For Facebook, we got to do it this way. For YouTube, it's going to be long form. It's going to look like this. And here's how you do thumbnails. For our website on the blog, here's how we're going to display the information and lead them to our podcasts and lead them to different, like our YouTube channel. So like, it's a full spectrum of like pillar piece of content. And then how do we distribute it across the channels and then leverage it for newsletters? There's a lot of like multi-purposing with it that allows you to do one effort and then make a big splash with all of it.
How often do you produce new content?
Every week we produce 2 pieces of pillar content. So before we launched, we had about 20 weeks of content in reserve that we were working on. It's a bit of an investment if you build the process and the team. obviously goes a lot faster. Now I just have to show up to the meetings as we're recording, and then it kind of just, the team takes it from there. But you got to set all that up to make it efficient.
So you said you've got 20 weeks of content. Do you ever run out of content ideas, or do you find that you're kind of recycling ideas after a certain point of time? How do you keep that going month after month and year after year?
So like we haven't at this point. So when we initially launched, we basically are training on what we're doing internally. So like we're taking our internal training material that we do with our team, and we're breaking it up into essentially podcast educational episodes. And there's a lot of things that we do, and the market constantly changes. So like there's always opportunity to continue to grow. And we don't just do marketing stuff. We also do 2 leadership programs that we run in here. We teach that. We have a very comprehensive people management system and how we grow and develop our team. We talk about all of those parts independently as well. So like we have about 6 different categories of content. There's so many different ideas and opportunities in there that it has not run dry.
I know that in our business, we feel like we're repeating ourselves constantly. Even when it's a different question, sometimes the answer is very similar. Do you find the same thing? Like the question may be different, but you're kind of answering it in a similar way as other questions?
Actually, I don't think so a lot of the times, because we have such a diverse set of content ideas that we're going after. Like for instance, we have an episode coming out in the near future on how to build a single location local business website. We'll have another one for how to build a multi-location website. They're very dense, it's technical, how to do it, and like what you should look for and how to set yourself up for success. And like there's just so many of those different things that we've learned building our law firm. Citations is another one. Here's how we think about data aggregators. Here's what we call high quality citations. Here's how we build regular citations. And there's so many different ideas that we can go in the weeds on this stuff and talk about it and like continue to educate our audience.
Gotcha. Okay. So the content is just very specific questions that you're answering rather than kind of big, broad ideas.
Yeah. It's like I'm taking a new intern that's coming into our business that doesn't know anything, and I'm teaching them what these things are and why they're important. And that's kind of our way of going to the marketplace and like building trust with our audience. Cause like, we're not asking for anything. We are literally just giving away our strategy. That's what we're doing. But you got to go through and listen to all of it. You got to execute. You got to do all the things. So I don't believe that's going to be a big threat to me. So I think that's less likely. So like, we'll just talk about it and give it away, build trust. And they'll be like, I don't really want to be a marketer. I want to be a good lawyer. I want to be a good business owner. So why don't we work together? That's kind of our thesis.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of people have that fear that, oh, if I give everything away, if I just tell all my secrets, then why would anybody hire me? And looking back at our business, I think there were times where we may have felt like that, but for the most part, I remember creating content even very early on, and we were just giving away everything because we wanted people to feel like we had the best content. Later on, we realized that it didn't matter how much we gave away. People weren't paying for the knowledge. It's not like we had any secret strategy or something that somebody else hadn't already created a free piece of content on. What people wanted help with, it wasn't with the knowledge, it was with the execution. They wanted the shortcut. They wanted to be able to do it and implement it in their business with as few mistakes as possible in as short of a time as possible. And I think that's really what makes a good, successful business is if your business model is built around, I'm going to give people knowledge that they didn't have before. Well, that's a very tough sell because
Especially now with AI.
yeah. Well, and even, I mean, you do a search on Google pre-AI about how to lose weight, ketogenic diet, 30-day diet plan, or whatever. You can get whatever you want for free, but it's the execution that people lack. You can consume all that content. Number one, it takes the time, right? It takes so much time to go through it. But then the implementation, just because you have the knowledge doesn't mean that you're going to implement it and do it correctly the first time. That's why you hire somebody to help you do it for you.
Yeah, 100%. Another way to think about giving away your secrets, quote unquote, it's like you're creating a jigsaw puzzle that's 500 pieces, and each piece of information you're giving away is one jigsaw puzzle piece. And like, if you hand that person a box and like, there isn't really a picture on it because they don't understand what they're looking at. It's just like kind of fuzzy colors, and it's kind of like just all shades of gray and black. And you hand them the box, you say, okay, here's how you do it. They're gonna be like, I don't know how to put this thing together. Can you do it for me? And then you can see the pattern, you can see what's there, you understand it, and now you can move faster and execute kind of exactly like what you just said.
Yeah, I like that analogy. We had one similar that we use. It was like you take an instruction manual and you tear out all the pages, and imagine there's no page numbers, but you tear out all the pages and you toss them on the ground and say, here you go. And they got to figure out which order each page goes in. So content, I think, is very important. Educating people. It does more than just educate them. it builds that trust and rapport, especially when they're about to make a big investment. When somebody's going to make a big investment in money, there's a lot of trust and rapport that needs to be built up in order for them to do that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's important. Yeah, I think the better you can do that over time, the less buyer's remorse scenarios. You're going to talk about the same things that you've been talking about in your content, in your onboarding, and then in your ongoing service. And like nothing's new. You've heard a lot of it. Like maybe it's hasn't been applied to your business, but you've heard it before. So you're like, oh, now I'm getting what I thought I was going to get. This is exactly what I heard in the podcast or in the YouTube video.
So you mentioned your podcast a few times. Is that your main channel for creating content?
It's one of our distribution points. So we create content every week. We'll shoot like a 15 to 25 minute video, one educational, one growth story. So we have on the growth story side, we have someone that does outreach. That's their 100% of their job is to do outreach for family law firms that we can book on our show, and they can tell their story, essentially free advertising for them. On the other side, the educational stuff. So we create one of those long form videos a week, and then our content team takes it, strips it down for Facebook, puts a long form video out for YouTube, distributes the audio through podcasts. So like the way we think about it is the podcast isn't just a podcast. The podcast is a distribution method, not just the thing in and of itself.
Okay. So when you create the content, it's kind of platform agnostic and you're just distributing it on podcast, YouTube, and so forth and so on.
The CEO here, Tyler Dolph, he's always a facilitator. He's our top sales guy. He doesn't really understand digital marketing. So he's a great facilitator because he just asks all the questions that literally all of our audience is going to ask because he doesn't know how it works, right? So it's like, he's a perfect facilitator for it because he asks all the nuance or all the like, I don't understand what impression share means, or I don't understand what quality score is. Like, tell me what that means. Won't go by so fast. So he'll facilitate a conversation that as we're going through the content and educating so that we can drive a point home and make it relatable to our users and help them understand why it's important for their business. That's kind of his job, is to tie it back to why does this matter? What's important to me? So, and that allows us to like strip it down, build it up, and take different pieces out and really distribute it on different platforms.
Now, when people do reach out and they book a call with you, is it just a one call process? Like, are they jumping on straight to a sales call, or is there like a qualification call first and then a sales call?
We have a discovery call that we kind of get to know each other a little bit, get some basic business information that we do, kind of understand what your past look like, what are all the channels you're working on, what's your previous and marketing engagements, what's your goals for this year, what'd you do last year, what'd you do the 2 years ago from a revenue perspective. So we can kind of put together are we even going to be a good fit? Does this make sense to continue? Then we'll go into actually auditing a lot of their stuff and understanding where they are against our playbook. And then we kind of court them for a period of time because it's not a one call close. That's not how it works. And especially in the B2B space.
I like that process. We used to, with our business, which is, high ticket coaching, we used to go straight to just a full sales call. And couple of things. Number one was that we would get a lot of people who were just unqualified, and even if they wanted to join, they just couldn't, or based on what their goals were in the business, it just wasn't a good fit. And so that wasted a bunch of time on a calendar. And then the other one was they would book a call and then they just wouldn't show. It wastes a ton of time on it, because you've only got maybe 5, if you filled up a full day of sales calls, 5 or 6 slots, versus if you just do a quick 15 to 20 minute discovery call and you can stack those one after another. There's so many more of those that you can fit throughout the day. And it's so much more time effective and time efficient to do it that way versus go straight to a sales call and take up all that time on your calendar. So I like that process that you're doing. I think it works well just for about any business. With what you offered your clients, are you customizing a plan for each one of them as far as the services that you're offering and what you're doing for the business? Or have you basically productized what you do and you're doing the same thing for everybody?
We've productized a lot of what we do for law firms. There are nuances between markets, generally to the extent of like 85 to 90%. If you're in Houston or in Dallas or in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or in Seattle, the playbook basically is the same. There's going to be a 10 to 15% of nuance depending on the marketplace, who's there, what's happened, what are the credibility points, things like that we'll have to tweak the plan, if that makes sense. But for the most part, we've productized it. What we want to do is get a really good foundation built so that we can actually help you scale your business. Because basically what we see is everybody goes from They need local SEO, they need a paid search, they need an organic content plan, organic SEO plan, and a content marketing plan. And once we have those things set up, their opportunities for growth are really add more offers, grow your territory, or start doing branding if you actually can consume the brand spend that we can do in that metro. So, and then we just restart the playbook with the new territory. And it's kind of just a process. And we've been able to do that very successfully with our own law firm. And we're just kind of redoing that execution. And a lot of it isn't just marketing. Like there's a marketing component, but there's a, how do you build an intake team? How do you teach your attorney staff how to sell better? How do you develop your lawyers internally? Because there's a lot of things to growing a business, to scaling a business that are a lot more difficult once you kind of get past that 12 to 15 team member point.
Are you leveraging AI in any of the services that you provide for your clients?
In terms of like how we execute or?
Yeah, well, for example, like the latest thing I saw come along was AI agents. People call your business, and then rather than have an actual receptionist pick up, an AI agent is picking up the phone and they're fielding the preliminary questions.
So for that specific installation, we do have that at the law firm. So basically, if you don't get one of our agents on the phone, you're going to talk to our AI bot, who basically gets all of the information and then creates a lead in our CRM to be followed up on. We do that currently. We have several of our own pre-built agents at the agency that do research for us, help us with auditing sites, executing backlink profile audits. So there's a lot of things that we do with AI internally. There's nothing we've currently built that we're offering externally.
Do you feel like that's a big selling point for people coming in? Like, are they asking for AI and things like that or not?
The thing that a lot of the lawyer customers that we have ask for is, how do I show up in ChatGPT? So, because there's a lot of searches starting to happen in ChatGPT.
Yeah. Have you figured that out yet? Because I haven't found anybody that really knows.
So there's several tools that we use, and it's a lot more like PR used to be. I call it PR. It's not really PR. It kind of is. It kind of isn't. It's similar to citations with local businesses. But basically what you need to do is your entity needs to be related to an informational topic, and it needs to be validated that you're an authority on this based on the content on your site, and other people also believe it to be true that you are, not through backlinks, but through entity relationship. So like, are you mentioned where they talk about this? Are you talking about this? And are you mentioned where they talk about this? And like, as you do more of that, you will show up in the LLMs significantly more often.
So it doesn't even necessarily have to be a backlink. They just have to mention your name.
So it's kind of like citations with local businesses where you have to get your name, address, phone number, and all these directories. You also don't necessarily need a link. You just need that footprint. Very similar in LLMs. What you need is like your brand name mentioned, or your name mentioned. And like those things are all entity related. So if your site's talking about it and then you're mentioned on a site that's also talking about it, the AIs will see all that together and see you as a relevant source. And you can kind of see this especially if you use like O3 or O3 Pro, and you look at like what they're doing to validate the information as they're compiling your result, you can kind of see what it's doing. And that's kind of how we've started reverse engineering our strategies for LLM placement for clients.
Do you know if, for example, with Google SEO, there's a page rank and the domain authority and all that stuff. Does AI have anything similar to that? Like, do they consider some sources more authoritative than others?
What AI will do is basically it'll look at a topic and it'll see like, who are the authorities on that topic? That makes sense. So it's not really page rank, but it's similar to PageRank, but there's not a metric for it currently. But essentially, there's a tool we currently use. We're in like an alpha test with a company called Kai Footprint, and they do a lot of this prompting for you. So you'll give them a topic. It will then search based on different personas in different locations, all of the relevant things that you should be present for, and it'll actually give you a score across all the different LLMs for your entity. Are you represented here or not? It helps you see where you are or where you aren't based on where your PR quote unquote opportunities are. And that it helps you with executing a strategy to be more present in LLMs.
Wow, interesting. What was the name of that thing again?
It's Kai Footprint.
Okay, I'll have to look that up. That's really interesting. Do you have a strategy of how to get mentioned in the other publications and the other websites, or is it very similar to backlinking? Or
it's very similar to backlink outreach, but you're not looking for a link. If you're a like this, the easiest one to do is like, if you're a restaurant in Chicago and you should have obviously your site built and have good map rankings, all the things. You're also going to want to be mentioned on best restaurants in Chicago blogs. So like you don't need a backlink, but are you mentioned in these other curated sources where they're talking about the best places to eat in Chicago? Does that make sense? That's kind of like what you would be doing. You're reaching out to those places that are doing the curation and you're trying to develop a relationship so that you can be present in the article and mentioned, and that'll help drive your visibility in the LLMs.
One of the things that we teach people is the podcast guesting, right? How to get traffic and exposure for your business through being a guest on other people's podcasts. And it's a great way to, especially when you're first starting your business, to get that exposure without having to invest in paid ads right away. One of the hidden benefits of that we often talk about is getting those backlinks to your website, because you've got, everybody that's publishing a podcast has their own website for it. And so that's another domain that's sending that backlink. So I can see this as being really beneficial in that ChatGPT search as well.
For sure, 100%.
So when you're on somebody else's podcast, typically what I see, or at least I know what we do, is whenever we ask you, okay, what's a bio that we can put in the show notes, we pretty much just copy and paste whatever you give us. So I could see that if you constructed your bio in the right way, you could really leverage that to get those citations.
If you're on podcasts that are really targeted towards the space that you're targeting, you're going to get a lot more credit for that citation than you would if you were on just, random podcast.
Well, and I'm even talking about typing up your bio in a way that it fuels that juice. Like Todd and Leah are experts in the blah, 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 right? Digital Trailblazer, and make sure it has all those words in there that we want to show up.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's spot on.
I'm going to start toying with that now because I think that's great. So with your clients that you work with, I know one of the things that a lot of agency owners complain about is client churn. They sign somebody up, they get a result, and then whether they're happy with the result or not, it's like they're constantly having to bring in new people to replace the people that are leaving. Maybe they got the result and they're like, okay, well, I'm good now, we're done. Or they get the result and it's like, I think I would have done this even without you. Sometimes they have that complaint of, yeah, I can see that these ads brought in these clients, but I think we would have gotten those clients even without the ads. And then there's some people that are like, well, this didn't work at all, or it didn't do what I want. And maybe it was their fault, maybe it wasn't. But there's this constant churn that people are complaining about. How do you deal with that? Like, how do you increase customer retention with your agency?
So one of the things that we implement for all of our clients is what we call a business waterfall. And like, that's what we basically do is we rebuild their business flow. So from interest through a funded agreement, which turns into dollars for them. So we are plugged into their CRM and we can literally see everything. It's part of our contract. It's required to work with us. If you're not actually willing to grow and you're not going to give us your revenue and you're not going to allow us in your CRM, I don't want to work with you because I can't see if what I'm doing is actually working. And I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste my team's time. That's not what we're interested in. So we take on the responsibility of building this pretty detailed reporting so we can see like because there's events through a sales cycle. You were talking about it before, right? Do you do a discovery and then do you do sales presentation and then kind of do you do follow-ups and like what does that look like? There's one of those waterfalls, that's what we call it, in every single business. And if you can track the touch points, you can see like from a marketing perspective, what can we do to help the throughputs of this flow so that we can actually add value to the business? What we end up seeing a lot of times is the most consistent issue we see is I need more leads, but they're not tracking their answer rate. And once we finally start tracking their answer rate, we're seeing they're answering like 40 or 50% of their phone calls. You don't need more leads. You use the phone, right? Or you don't have a qualification methodology. So you can't take a lead and make it a qualified lead. There's no way to do that. You don't have a standard. So you're not actually feeding relevant information back to the marketing team because they're getting you a bunch of leads, but you're not telling them whether or not they're qualified. You're just telling them they're not funded. The other thing we'll see is like, okay, you're getting a bunch of stuff funded, consults scheduled. And this happens in most law firms is the main business owner typically does most of the consults. Then they start to grow and they add more people to the room and their closing rates go down. The leads didn't change. You put someone who wasn't an owner and wasn't super invested in making sure the sale happens in the seat to close. What are you doing to teach them how to be good at sales? Because they're good lawyers. They're not good salespeople. What are you doing there? So there's like so many of these things that you need to watch and help coach that as you do that, that's what we do. you see your retention go up because they're actually growing their business and they're super happy about that. That's why they're here.
So when you say you need to be connected to their CRM system, is that they need to adopt the CRM that you're in, or do you connect with whatever CRM that they're using?
We have an internal program that we custom build, pull all of their data, literally make a copy, and then we pre-sort it, we organize it into our methodology. So our internal team gets to operate the same way with every client. Our development team has to be adept enough to like pull the data down, sort it and filter it in a way that is congruent with our waterfall methodology.
So they can stay in whatever system they already know, and you stay in your system. You just build the integration between the two.
Correct.
Yeah, I like that. That's so many businesses and so many successful businesses just don't know what their numbers are. And just like you said, when they don't know what their numbers are, that's when you get those objections. Whereas you could look at the numbers and you could see, well, very clearly this is working. So having that knowledge and being able to show it to them, it's so important to be able to track that. So Anthony, this has been a great conversation. I think we've uncovered a lot of neat things in here, some things that I'm definitely going to try out in our own business now. But if people want to learn more about you and what you do and maybe get some help, where can they find you online?
Sure. So we are at rocketclicks.com. On there, you'll kind of see who we are and what we do. So we exclusively work with family law firms. So that might not be everybody who's listening, but that's who we are, who we work with. We're really good at that, and we want to stay focused. If you're interested in kind of the waterfall conversation we talked about, I did recently write a book on how we got to that methodology, and it's basically a story of how all the things that I screwed up as I was building the law firm for 10 years, getting to that playbook that we built, and how the waterfall works and all the things to consider as a result. So that's on our website as well.
Awesome. Well, we will have the links for all of that in the show notes, so be sure to check that out. Anthony, thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate having you on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.